All right, buddy. Peace. Welcome to the STBY basketball show. Wherever or however you're listening, we're so grateful to have you here with us. As you guys know, I'm your host, Casuan, and today I wanted to talk about one of the most kept secrets in women's college basketball prior to Sunday, and that is Alissa Pili from Utah. I want to talk about her game, and I want to talk about what her impact could be, not just on women's college basketball, but also on the WNBA as well. And also want to dive into why analytics can sometimes hinder and sometimes be beneficial for a player. And I want to use her as a backdrop in the entire Utah program. And in our second segment, we're going to be discussing Tyrese Haliburton and why he's been so successful this season, and whether he's a legitimate MVP candidate, and what the Indiana Pacers are doing to enable and foster this level of success that Haliburton is having. So, with that being said, guys, we're going to get right into it. But before we get started, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well, so you guys can stay up to date on all of our latest content. Be sure to follow us on Patreon as well. You can do so by going to patreon.com, clicking on the search bar, and typing in Started Bobby Show. And if you'd like to support our network and our company, you can do so by following the link in the ticker below. It's streamelements.com/sorrytobobby-show/tip. All the links to our websites and everything will be in the description. So you can always go back to this video later on and check that stuff out at your leisure. So with that being said, guys, let's go and get right into it. So like I was saying, Sunday was the first time I was able to watch Utah live against South Carolina. As you guys know, South Carolina and Utah played Sunday at 2:30 p.m. on ESPN, and South Carolina won the game by a score of 78-69, and that score is pretty representative of the margin of the game. And it was a contested game, but by about midway through the third quarter, you could tell that South Carolina was physically imposing their will on Utah, just like they've done with every other team so far this year. And watching South Carolina play, and it wasn't South Carolina's best game. Listen, we have to remember South Carolina shot 66% from the free throw line. They did shoot 54% from the field, but they had 23 turnovers, which is well above their season average of 10. And so watching the game, you realize that South Carolina isn't playing well. The starting point guard, Raven Johnson, who's averaging 12 points on the season, only had 2 points, 1 of 6 from the field. Tahina Paopao had 15 points. She's been the most consistent player for South Carolina. Bree Hall has 7 points, which is also below her season average. Kimberly Cardoza had 17 points, which is below her season average. Chloe Kitts had 11 points, which is about right on par for her average of 12. But Malaysia Fawiley had 11 points coming off the bench, and she shot 3 of 3 from the three-point line. However, she had 4 turnovers in 11 minutes. And watching her play, she has a lot of potential, a lot of spark. She just has to get to continue to learn how to play the game. Right now, she's doing what she does purely off of really talent and just feel for the game. But once she starts to get a feel for the collegiate, because she's playing with not just with the best program in women's college basketball, but also she's playing in one of the toughest conferences in women's college basketball, being the SEC. So these growing pains are expected of her, but she has a lot of potential, and I see the upside in her. Once she learns to control pace, play with pace, and learn not just where she's going to be most efficient, but how to get there, picking and choosing her spots, she's going to be an amazing point guard. But just like with any freshman point guard, especially in women's college basketball, it takes time to develop, it takes time to get there. Snia Fagan had 3 points coming off the bench. Ashley Watkins had 8 points. And it was a balanced attack for South Carolina, seeing that their players that you expect to score 15, 20 plus points were a little below that average. But this will make South Carolina so good. They're so deep. They can go 11 deep and not miss a beat. And if we look at Utah shot 45% from the field, 25% from the three-point line, 72% from the free throw line. Had 17 turnovers. Listen, the thing with Utah's kind of been their issue all year is depth. Ever since they lost their starting two guard, I forget her name, to a foot injury. They talked about how Utah in that locker room, they said that everyone has to get 5% better. And in that game against South Carolina, there wasn't much production outside of Young and Pili. Listen, their starting point guard though, Inez Vieta, had 5 points and 7 assists, 5 steals, very productive, filled the role very well. However, she shot 2 and 9 from the field. McQueen had 6 points. She shot 3-11 from the field, 0-5 from the 3-point line. And I listen, with Utah, their 3-point percentage is going to be always skewed because, and now I'll start to get into the analytic aspect of it. They follow what the casual NBA fan will know as the Mike D'Antoni system, or the no mid-range system. Very analytical, and they showed a shot chart and during the game and talked about how the staff of Utah, the basketball program, will blow like a blowhorn if players shoot a mid-range. And when they say mid-range, they mean like right outside the painted area or along two. They'll blow a blowhorn when a player shoots that to condition them to not shoot that shot. And what happens is it allows you to create space, because now you have to put 5 shooters out on the court, right? To fit your program. But what happens is it becomes easier to guard over the course of 40 minutes. Because basketball is a game of runs. Very rarely is the team you're playing not going to go on a run. And there will be games where you shoot extremely well, as Utah has done. Listen, they're 8-2 on the season. But then you're going to have a game like this where you shoot 25% from a 3-point line, and you have to have something that you can go to compensate for that poor shooting from the outside, coupled with the fact that it's hard to get penetration at times because you have Cardozo, who's 6'7". So by you completely taking away the mid-range, you're living and dying by the 3, and I'm sure that's the system that they're willing to accept that. But what happens is you start to hurt the development of these players. And I'm not, from my perspective and as a coach and as a player, I would never do that all or nothing 3-pointer layup system, that Mike D'Antoni system, because it becomes difficult to guard. Or sorry, it becomes easy to guard as a player, because I know you're not going to shoot that mid range. So I can shade you as a defender, especially if you're a non-shooter. One, I'm just going to give you space. I'm going to dare you to shoot it. But if I know you're a commensurate shooter, I can close out strong enough to, with enough shade and space to give you the lane. But I know that all I have to do is make you turn 2 or 3 times, because I know you're just straight line. You're trying to get to the rim. So when I cut you off, I can either cut you off and force you back to the sideline, or force you strictly to the baseline, or I can just give you bump in the body because I know you're just trying to get to the paint, and that should make it easier for me to draw an offensive foul as a player. And what happens is it hurts the development of these players, because now they no longer get to develop that third dimension of their game. Now, we talk about all the time, great scorers, great players can score from 3 levels consistently: the inside, the mid-range, and the 3-point line. And what happens is these players aren't able to develop that because they're not allowed to shoot those kind of shots. But what happens if these women aspire to play at the next level, whether it be in the WNBA or overseas, you have to develop that third dimension of the mid-range, because if you get a player that closes out hard on you, and you get to your mid-range, but then the paint just walls up and clogs because they know you're only trying to get to the paint, you have to be able to shoot that mid-range, or at least that floater, to keep the defense honest. And I was watching one particular play, because I know there's some people in the comment section that are going to talk about this, that Utah player had the ball at 3-point line. The defender from South Carolina closed out on them, gave a pump fake, sidestepped, shot the ball, missed it. In that moment, I said, man, as a coach, I would tell them to get to the mid-range. Missed the shot, get an offensive rebound, kicks it back out to the same player. Player shoots it again, hits the three-pointer. And so in that moment, I know people are going to say, well, that's the analytical aspect. That's why you only shoot threes, because you get the long rebound, you get the crash, and kick it out again, then you play your chances. From an analytical standpoint, sure, that one play might validate that. But there were countless times I saw during this game where players like, excuse me, like Wilkie and Vieira and McQueen and even Pili to an extent were able. They had so many opportunities to get to the mid range, whether it be a quick 2-dribble pull up or a floater. Especially with Vieira, she had so many opportunities to get to her floater, but didn't because of the system that they run. And I'm not knocking the system. I'm not knocking it because players are bought in and their head coach is running it well. If you were to run that system, it's just my perspective and how I understand the game of basketball and how I've played it and how I currently play it. It just hinders these players' development. And so to get back to Pili, watching Pili yesterday, finally watching her live, Pili's one of the best players in women's college basketball. In my opinion, she's no question top 10, borderline top 6 player in women's college basketball. And she's 6'2", and she plays the 4 and the 5, and she's kind of a tweener. And people will question what position she's going to play in the WNBA. I don't care what position she's going to play. She's going to be a basketball player. She's going to be she's going to be a hooper. She's just going to be able to play because what happens is, listen, she had 37 points and 3 steals, 1 block. She's not the best rebounder. At least according to last night, she had 2 rebounds, but I believe she's averaging about 7 or 8 rebounds. So for a position, she's an average rebounder. But what we see now is she's going to have a mismatch, especially at the next level. If you put her out on the wing, you have her be a 3, maybe even a 2. She's going to have a mismatch because of her size, because of her physicality. But if you put her inside, her quickness and her footwork, she's going to have a mismatch against those players. But what happens is Pili's a great shooter. She's a good enough shooter to keep defenders honest. And so I believe she shot 50% from the three-point line yesterday, which is great for a big. I don't think she's a big. She's just a player. She's a basketball player. And she did a great job of attacking Cardozo, attacking her hip right away, making her turn, and getting all to the paint. But when they put players like South Carolina put multiple players on Pili. They put Chloe Kitts on her. They put Ashley Watkins, Sanaya Fagan. Obviously, I said Cardozo. I think Ashley Watkins probably did the best job defending Pili because Watkins is also pretty quick and athletic. And I would, based on my scouting, I would say Ashley Watkins is probably the most accurate depiction of what Pili is going to get in the WNBA in terms of athleticism and ability to move laterally. So watching Pili go up against Watkins did a good job of beating Pili to her spot, but there were many times where Pili would struggle against Watkins. I say struggle in quotations because she had 37 points. However, adding a mid-range spot up to Pili's game would be phenomenal because I can count on on 2 hands the number of times Pili would catch the ball from about 2 or 3 steps above the free throw line, or 2 steps, sorry, about 1 or 2 steps above the free throw line, and then not look to shoot, kick it back out, and then relocate to 3 to shoot that catch and shoot 3, as opposed to shooting the catch and shoot from that free throw line extended area. And that's just another shot you add to your game to keep the defense honest. And obviously, I don't have to talk about her footwork is bar none. She probably has, her footwork is up there with Liz Kitley and Cameron Brink in terms of low post players that have some of the best footwork in the game. But Pili's size and physicality and her ability to cut angles on her drive is what separates her from pretty much every other player in women's college basketball. She plays her angles so well. Like I said, her physicality is phenomenal. Great touch around the rim. And adding that mid-range, that ability to shoot off the pull-up, it doesn't have to be anything, tremendous. Like, it doesn't have to be on the level of a Raven Johnson or of a Caitlin Clark or of a Georgia Amor, because obviously these are guards. But if she can just add a 2-dribble pull-up or 1-dribble pull-up to her game and a floater, in the mid-range, it diversifies her game and keeps the defense honest. And I think that's what's going to turn her, because she's currently now averaging 23 points per game, but shooting efficiently at 75% from the field, which is astronomical. When she gets to the W, obviously those points will dissipate slightly, but adding that dimension in the mid-range to Pili's game, that can turn her into, in my opinion, based on what I've seen so far, turn her into a 23, 22 point per game scorer in her rookie season, because she already has the physicality, and she's only going to more into that professional body, and she's still going to maintain the strength. So it's no question to me that Pili is one of the best players in women's college basketball. But like I said, and like I led off with in the show, her system she plays in is, whether and obviously not intentional, is going to be a hindrance to her development, just like it's going to be a hindrance to the development of her teammates as well, because you're completely cutting off one crucial aspect of the game, and that's the mid-range. And like I said, great shooters, great scorers, great players can be a threat from inside, from outside, and from the mid-range. And when we completely take away the mid-range, it makes you easy to guard. It makes you almost robotic. But I'm not trying to attack this Mike D'Antoni system and the analytical system, but when has the analytics ever won a championship? It might be successful for an extended period of time, whether that be over the course of a season or the course of a couple of years, but does it ever really win? It never. Name me one team that's won in basketball, women's, men's, collegiate, professionally, that has won based off this analytic system, and it hasn't. No one has. And there's a reason why, because when it comes to the NCAA tournament and it comes to playoffs, things get into a half court set, and it's easy to run that system in the fast break when you're running the break all the time. And one thing I will say about Utah, they do a good job running the system in the half court, but even when you play against a team that's extremely physical like South Carolina, teams are going to get in the tournament, they know how to guard that. And like I said, I'm not a proponent of it, but Utah runs it pretty successfully, depending on what you measure as success. But I think any team, any player, doesn't matter, Utah, whatever, it could be any team at any level that runs that analytics system, it hurts the development of those players, because you're completely taking away their ability to score from one of the most important parts of the court, the mid-range. But once again, that's only my perspective as a current professional basketball player and a coach as well. But let me know what you guys think. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. I'd love to hear all about it. But no question, Alissa Pili is by far, no question, top 10 player in women's college basketball. I say she's more closer to 7 than 10, but she will definitely be drafted in the first round in the top 10 come next April in the WNBA draft. But guys, in our next segment, we're going to be talking about another standout player, this time on the men's side in the NBA, Mr. Tyrese Haliburton. What is causing his success this year, and what is Indiana doing to foster that? So be sure to stick around for that, guys. You're not going to miss it. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back. In case you missed the first segment of our show, we talked about Alissa Pili and the Utah program, and talked about how Pili is by far, no question about it, top 10 player in women's college basketball. Closer to 7 though than 10 in my opinion, and talk about why the Utah program is actually hindering the development of her game as a potential professional basketball player, and why that Mike D'Antoni all only threes and layups system, it's a hindrance to everyone's game as a professional, as a player. Anyone that plays in that system, doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be just Utah. So we just talked about that, and in this segment, guys, I want to talk about Tyrese Haliburton and what Indiana's doing to foster his level of success, and whether he's a legitimate MVP candidate, and whether he can keep up this level of play. So, for those who don't know, Tyrese Haliburton is currently averaging 26 points per game and 12 assists. His 12 assists are the most in the NBA currently as we speak. And he has, I believe, the second highest assist to turnover ratio. And he obviously led Indiana to the in-season tournament championship game, by which we're going to have to do a whole other show on that, the in-season tournament concept and what is rooted in and what it really represents, more so on a two-dimensional level, not really a three-dimensional level, but obviously on a two-dimensional level, it's a money grab. It's a way for the NBA to, in my opinion, still try to generate more revenue ever since what happened with them in China. For, contrary to what people know or what they think, the NBA has lost a lot of money ever since the stuff that happened with Daryl Morey and LeBron James over in China. Those that incident that occurred, I guess about 3 years now, almost 4 years now. But listen, the NBA is still trying to generate money off of that, and that's what this NBA in-season tournament does through TV revenue, obviously, and advertisements. Just finding ways to get that money back from China, or that they lost from losing supporters in China. Just trying to make that money up somehow. And Tyrese Haliburton is averaging 26 points and 12 assists. Indiana is one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference at this point. But what are they doing this year that is allowing Haliburton to be successful? And it's three things that they're doing. They're surrounding him with better shooters, better players. When I say better, I mean better players that are better at playing their role. And they're allowing Haliburton to really dictate the offense entirely. And if you look at his usage rate is one of the highest in the league. But you haven't seen this often that his player's usage rate, excuse me, is high, but their turnover ratio isn't high. Like I said, he has a 5-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, which is quite high. It means he's only averaging 2 turnovers a game, and which is rare. You normally see guys that play in that sort of system have a high turnover rate, but Haliburton doesn't have that, and that's why this system is working so well. And look at who they added in the offseason. I mean, they added players like Obi Toppin and Bruce Brown, and players that do a great job of running the floor and playing their role. And we obviously Buddy Hield is still there, but even Buddy Hield's usage rate has gone down. Obviously, he's been hurt for a good portion of the season, but when he has played, his usage rate has gone down. So Indiana's completely saying we're gonna go all in on Tyrese Haliburton. Haliburton, you are the offense, you are the system. It's very akin and similar to what Washington did with John Wall and Bradley Beal when they got to the point where they said, all right, John, you're the offense. We're going to let everything run through you. And for you guys to remember that there was a 2-year stretch from I want to say 2016 to about 2018 before John got hurt. John was an MVP candidate. He was an All-NBA player. He was a All-Star player in the Eastern Conference. He was first in the league in assists at 2016-2017 season for a good portion of that year. And Washington was quote-unquote successful during that time frame. And that's the sort of mold and process that Indiana's following with Tyrese Haliburton, where they say, we're just going to let you run the offense entirely. We're going to let you work the show. Even though you're not the best shooter, we're going to allow you to run the court. We're going to get guys around you that maybe aren't as good talent-wise, but they're great at playing their role, which actually is what makes them great players. Buddy Hield, we're going to take down and use straight a little bit. But Buddy Hield is such a great shooter. You still have to, as a defense, be honest and close out hard on him. And having Miles Turner down there obviously makes things a little easier because he's a great shot blocker, great rim protector, obviously good rebounder, and you don't have to run an offense for him. He can get shots on his own. He's averaging 70 points a game, and very rarely do they run any offensive sets for Miles Turner. So Indiana is following the system that, like I said, Washington followed from 2016 to about 2018 with John Wall and Bradley Beal, where they say, John, you're going to run the offense. Here you go. Boom. Go. Take it and go. Run the court. Run. And they've surrounded Haliburton with players that just run the lane and run the court and do a great job of pushing tempo. And that, coupled with the fact that obviously Haliburton has developed his game. He's become a much better shooter, not only off the catch, but also off the dribbles, which makes him much more effective coming off that P&R. And his confidence has increased. And he's become a better defender. So, yes, the system has evolved slightly in Indiana, and they've gotten better talent to fit the system that they want to run with Haliburton. But also, you have to give credit to Haliburton. He's done everything he needs to do as a professional to evolve and take the next steps in his career to be the best player possible. So you have to give him credit for that as well. Now, is he an MVP candidate? In my opinion, listen, I still think Anthony Edwards has been playing the best basketball in the NBA so far. But listen, Haliburton is definitely going to be an all-star. And if he keeps up this level of play, he has the potential to be an all-NBA player this season. But, I would still take De'Aaron Fox. I would still take Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I would still take Trae Young. And, obviously, without questioning Kyrie and Dame, I'm just thinking, point guards that I would take over Haliburton. But Haliburton is, no question, he's playing great basketball right now. And we kind of got to get away from this comparison concept. I know it's easy for us to make comparison because, as human beings, we're creatures of habit and order. And comparisons help establish an order and precedent. But we've got to get away from this comparison thing because we have to start looking at these players and their development within themselves and where they come from. And when you look at it from that perspective, yeah, Tyrese Haliburton has shown tremendous growth. And like I said, he's playing great basketball right now, and it's great to see. It's amazing to see what happens when you do put the work ethic in. When you have great work ethic and you put the work in, and you take time honing on your craft and watching film and doing all the necessary things to become a better player. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Is Tyrese Haliburton a legitimate MVP candidate? Can he keep up this level of play for the entire season? Let me know what you guys think. But with that being said, guys, that's it for our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a wonderful show. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as well, so you guys can stay update on all of our latest content. Be sure to follow us on Patreon as well. You can do so by going to patreon.com, clicking on the search bar, and typing in Sorry to Bother You Show. That way you can gain access to all of our exclusive content that we post daily. And if you'd like to support our network and our company, like I said, you can do so by following the link in the ticker below. It's streamelements.com/sorrytobotheryoushow/tip. None of this is possible without you guys, the fans. We're so grateful and honored for all of the love and support that you show us, and it's an honor to be here. And if you haven't already, guys, if you guys just question anything that I'm saying, go ahead and type in Alissa Pili in Utah full game film so you can see what I'm talking about. and type in Indiana Pacers Tyrese Haliburton full game film, so you can see what I'm talking about, where Indiana has followed that mold of what Washington did with John Wall from 2016 to about 2018 before he got hurt. I think you guys would find that that's pretty apropos. But like I said, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think in the chat room as well. With that being said, guys, we'll be back again tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for our show. So until then, guys, continue to stay safe, be vigilant, make smart decisions, and peace.